I have 2 Halloween cards for you today using the brand new Tim Holtz Distress Spritz. Hey everyone, it's Joy here and welcome to my channel. I'm so excited for the new colors of Distress Spritz because I love them so much. So there is Antique Linen, Rusty Hinge, Mowed Lawn, Prize Ribbon, Tumbled Glass, and Seedless Preserves. So I'm going to be using Rusty Hinge and Mowed Lawn for my 2 Halloween cards today, but look at how beautiful these are, you guys. If you have not tried Distress Spritz, you definitely need to. So I also want to give a shout out to scrapbook.com for sending me these products to play with and share with you guys. And I also have done a second video, so check that one out. I will have that linked for you guys below in the description. I am using Tim Holtz Moon Mask, the largest one on a piece of A2 size mixed media white cardstock from scrapbook.com. And I am ink blending with Distress Inks. And I am using Forest Moss to start off with, and then I'm going to do a little bit of Black Soot. This is very heavily mixed media. It's definitely out of my wheelhouse, but I love doing it when I'm doing it. And I do definitely have inspiration. A lady named Stacy Hutchinson from Tattered Nest Designs, that's her blog name. She does a lot of stuff for Tim Holtz. I think she might be on his design team, and she is amazing. So the moon that I'm creating here is absolutely inspired by her. I went and read one of her blog posts, and she just kind of talked about how to do this moon, and that's what I'm doing. So now I also have Distress Oxide spray. I'm using Mowed Lawn, and I'm just going to dip, keeping my mask on there, I'm just going to dip around the edges just to get some of that color because I'm going to use the coordinating Distress Spritz colors. So then I'm going to just dry that with my heat tool a little bit. And I did spritz that with some water too, just, no I didn't. Maybe I did. Now I don't remember. You guys saw, maybe I spritzed it with water, but I did want to, make sure I had enough. I think I sprayed too much of it on my surface. I didn't need quite that much, but now we have this great background. Then I'm going to spritz that Distress Oxide spray in some of the areas, and then the Black Soot Distress, let me see, was that the spray? Yes, the Distress Oxide spray in Black Soot. I sprayed a little bit, took the lid off, splattered it, really kind of messy. Now we're going to take off that stencil, and we're going to take, this is where Stacy Hutchinson talked about, then you spritz it with your Distress sprayer, and all that color runs into the center, kind of blurs the lines, and it just really gives this spooky, spooky moon, and I love it. So pretty amazing. I just have to say I'm so inspired by her every time I see her stuff, even though distressing is not like my main style. I love her stuff. It is so good. Then my second card, I am using Scorched Timber Distress Oxide ink. I inked that up, and then I am going to use, I think I'm using Rusty Hinge Distress Oxide spray. And I'm shaking that up really good, spraying that on my work surface, adding a little bit of water, and I'm going to do that same thing of dipping it. So once I clean my work surface off, I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and then I can use the Rusty Hinge Distress Spritz. Oh, I'm also going to be using the Antique Linen Distress Spritz for these cards. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. That still is that Oxide spray. I'm spraying a little bit of that. We will get to the Distress Spritz in just a little bit. I wanted to get this main part of this background and then bring in the Distress Spritz. Again, the Black Soot Distress Oxide spray, I pulled the top off and just splattered that all over the background. I'm going to remove that mask and then spray and let that ink and stuff just kind of pull to the center, and then using my heat tool I am going to dry that. So cute. I love this idea. Now I decided I also wanted to use some of Tim Holtz newer Distress Glaze colors, or Embossing Glaze. And I'm trying to think what color I used here. I used Frayed Burlap. That's this color here. And then I'm going to use dried Marigold for the orange color. I did not put any ink down. I sprinkled it on just in some of the areas on the moon and then heated from the bottom with my heat tool. If you guys follow me, you have seen that I've done that with embossing powders in certain areas, but you always have to heat from the bottom so you don't blow off your embossing powder or glaze because it is not held down by ink. So, and I love that gives it kind of this fun, shiny effect. So just a little something extra on this background. Now let's use the Distress Spritz. Here is that Mowed Lawn. I'm going to spritz it and then I'm going to take the cap off and do lots and lots of splatters all over the background. The spritzing kind of gave it chunkier pieces of that color and it's really shiny. It almost looks like it glows in the dark in the right light, but you can see it on the bottom in the corners there. Isn't that so pretty? And then I'm going to do the same thing using the Rusty Hinge. You just have to make sure you shake it up really, really good, and you can look at the bottom. As long as the bottom isn't holding on to a bunch of that shimmer stuff, then you're good. So I'm going to spray that and then again splatter little dots all over the background. And then I can use my heat tool to dry that, but let's take a look at that. Oh, it's so beautiful. Okay, another piece of cardstock I am spraying with Distress Oxide spray. And that is in, oh gosh, what color, you guys? I'm so sorry. And I'm drying it with my heat tool. Lost Shadow. So I'm spraying that with Lost Shadow. And then I'm going to come in with the Distress Spritz and Antique Linen and just take the lid off and splatter it. I'm not spraying it. I just wanted nice, good splatters. This is going to be for our ghosts, and I am using Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous Spooky Spirits. I'm going to use 2 ghosts and the sentiments from that stamp set. It's a red rubber stamp set, and the ghosts are absolutely cute. So you get 6 ghosts, 3 of a design, 1 is larger and 1 is smaller. So in my Misty, I have my ghosts placed. I do have where their heads are not in the thick of the color. I do want their heads to be a little bit lighter. And I'm going to leave that in my Misty because we're going to stamp it again in a second. I think this was one of the tips from Stacy Hutchinson too. I am using Distress Oxide, or excuse me, Distress watercolor pencils. And I am using old paper. And I'm just going to color around some of the edges. So I don't really think you can see it on camera. And I do have some water on my work surface that I'm dipping my colored pencil into, so it'll just color and blend without having to use a paintbrush. You might be able to see some of that green a little bit. But this is from the Distress Watercolor Pencils Set 5. And then I'm also going to be using the Picket Fence watercolor pencil, and that's just going to be on the head. It softens some of the splatters on the background and just makes their head a little bit more visible. You don't have to. You could leave both of these out if you wanted, and it'll look amazing just as is. So like I said, you can see that old paper color up close, but on camera it really is kind of hard to see. But I do like how it turned out for sure. Now I am using Honeybee Stamps Halloween stamp set, and I will use the coordinating die. It has this spooky tree branch that I am going to be stamping twice on this background, and I'm using Ranger Inks Intense, or Archival Intense, no, Archival Jet Black ink. I'm so sorry, you guys. Archival Jet Black ink, because it inks better over Distress Oxides. Then I'm stamping that on some white mixed media cardstock. I'm going to use the coordinating die to die cut it out, and then I'm also going to die cut it again from black cardstock. Now I did not get my die cut here lined up very well, but actually it was okay. I did just take some black soot Distress Oxide ink and blend over it, but it gave it a kind of a lighter area, which I actually didn't mind. but I am going to glue that stamped image to the die cut image, and that's just going to give it a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to glue that together. And this little ghost will be hanging from this tree. So I want to just kind of lay this out, and I'm going to scooch that ghost over. But doesn't that moon look great? I just think that was such a fun thing. Using some 2mm foam adhesive strips from scrapbook.com, I'm going to place that over here. And I did adhere this down. I do end up having to take it off because I forgot that I wanted to do some stenciling on the background. And I was able to stencil around the tree branch, so that was fine, but I did have to move the ghost. And I'm going to be using Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous Falling Stars layering stencil for the background. I'm just using a pen and adding a little line like the rope that's hanging. And then I'm using the black opaque texture paste from Tim Holtz. And I'm just going to texture paste some of these black stars. I think this added a ton to the background. These are some of my most favorite mixed media cards. I think they turned out really, really nice. I'm happy with it. Sometimes I struggle because, like I said, this is not like something that's in my wheelhouse. Do you guys like doing mixed media cards? Let me know down in the comments. Like, is it in your wheelhouse? Is it not? Do you like doing it regardless? Yeah, let me know what you guys think. So I'm going to do this for both of the cards here. And I liked doing the cards, even though the backgrounds are similar in technique, but I like that the cards ended up looking a little bit different because you have a different layout with the ghost. I did it differently with the tree branches. And so even if you're making cards using the same products, you can give them a little bit of a different look. So let me add a few more. I kind of didn't want to stop adding the stars, but I also didn't want to overdo the stars. But that black texture paste is amazing. And so I was having a ton of fun. But here's my last little bit of stars, and it dries really, really quick. Look at how cute that is. Let's add our ghosts. Again, they have some foam adhesive behind them. And that way they can be popped up from the background. And then I'm going to stamp the sentiments in my Misty from that same Spooky Spirits stamp set from Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous. I am using the Archival jet black ink, and then I'm just going to trim them out with my paper trimmer, and I need to distress them the same way I did the ghost. So I did Lost Shadow Distress Oxide spray, and then I did the Antique Linen Distress Spritz. So I didn't want it to be stark white. It would not fit and look right on the card. So I'm going to take the lid off and then just spray that, or splatter that on the background. And then of course I'm going to add some foam adhesive so they can be popped up. I'm going to place these two at the bottom. It says Happy Halloween, Feeling Spirited. And then the other one is going to say Trick or Treat and Boo to You. And I'm just going to lay those out a little bit differently. And also, if you guys want to let me know which card do you like out of these, which Distress Spritz do you like out of these two cards? But let's take a look at that up close. Look at how that Distress Spritz there, and just it looks like it's glowing. I think it's so pretty, and it sure makes for some really, really fun cards. Like I mentioned, I do have a second video I will have linked below in the description. Check that one out too, because I did something a little bit differently for my background. And you can see the Distress Spritz on the ghosts too. That was that Antique Linen. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this project. I hope you guys feel really inspired. Also, if you want to join the Patreon, we would love to have you as part of our community, and it is linked and listed below for you.